UConn head basketball coach Dan Hurley declined the offer to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, which was, I think, pretty monumental for college athletics. Because, I mean, look, it is the Lakers. He does have LeBron on that team, or would have had LeBron on that team. But Dan Hurley stays, which then makes us think about a segment of who are some college football coaches that could be entering the NFL either next year or next couple of years. We're going to pick three. I start off with you here, though. Who is a college coach or some college coaches that you think that could entertain the NFL in the next couple of seasons or next year?
Yeah, first of all, thought this could be a fun conversation because of the debate that was being sparked with Dan Hurley, if he's ready, if it makes sense. It's a very different world in football. And we did have one guy this past year in Jim Harbaugh who went to the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know if we're going to have somebody in this upcoming year. But the first one who comes to mind, and this might be one of the more controversial ones to bring up, and I know it might be for a large demographic of our listeners. I really think there's a possibility. Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart to me, and I don't think that this is a case where I don't think this is a situation where he'd ever leave because of frustration or whatever. Kirby Smart is right now the best coach in college football, and he's going to continue to dominate. He's likely, and he's my pick to win a national title in 2024. He's going to get another one this upcoming year. But I look at other coaches throughout history with similar backgrounds as him. Steve Spurrier is one who comes to mind, who won a Heisman Trophy at Florida, won a national title at Florida, and was a coach there. And then he jumped to the NFL, eventually came back to college football because he did not succeed in the NFL. But that's a really good example.
Or did it too.
Right. I just think somebody like Kirby Smart, who maybe in the next, might not happen for another 10 years. Someone like Kirby Smart, who has this competitive edge, who's extremely, extremely competitive, it's at a certain point might get that itch that he wants to try out and see if he can win in the NFL as well. And there's a reason why we started to hear some murmurs that he could be opening, be in that conversation for the Falcons job. I don't think that was fake. I think that was legitimate. It might have been short-lived, but I think it was legitimate. But Kirby, the way that he succeeded, I think eventually the NFL is definitely going to continue to keep calling until he makes the decision to make the jump.
I'm going to push back. Kirby's not my top three, and I thought that he would have been. Joe, if there was a team that he would have gone to, I think Atlanta would have made the most sense. Right? Like he doesn't have to move. It
wasn't a very good roster, though, to take over. Or actually, no, it wasn't. It was not a very good roster situation to take over.
Any head coach that's going into the NFL, good head coaches aren't getting fired.
Well, look at Harbaugh. Harbaugh took an opportunity that he knew that was a good situation for him. Great young quarterback, already solidified offensive situation, and just needed to build it.
That's fair, but you're talking about a guy who barely wanted to even entertain his, let's just call it what it is, his hometown NFL team. Didn't even want to whatever. Didn't even entertain it. And I'm going to push back on this. This was the big thing for me. When Kirby left with Nick to go to Miami, Kirby's been in the NFL. He was in the NFL with Nick in Miami. Didn't like it. I think he learned from Nick. Like where he wanted to be, what happened in the entire situation. Kirby was at LSU with Nick. He was at Miami with Nick. He was at Alabama with Nick. Clearly, I just can never see it. And the only way that I could is that things do have to get bad. Like NIL has to really take over and Georgia's not competitive or for whatever reason, but that's not going to happen.
I just don't think he's the type of coach, though, that this is why I let in with that. I don't think he's the type of coach that's ever going to get pushed out because he doesn't like how things are moving in the sport. Like he seems very adaptable.
Well, and that's also to his mentor. Also, there's been a lot of things. If you follow a lot of college athletics, like his son's a very good golfer, like a legit golfer. He ain't leaving Athens. It's just not going to happen. So I get what you're saying. I can't buy into Kirby leaving. I think if Kirby wanted to leave, he's had multiple opportunities and things would have to happen. You know what could happen? A cheating scandal like Harbaugh had could happen and he could leave. But,
I don't
but who knows? can I tell you my number one? And this is in no specific order. Brian Kelly for me.
I had a feeling the way that you led that in, I had a feeling that you were going to say that.
Do I think that Brian Kelly goes? No. I mean, look, he's older in age. I think BK has had multiple opportunities. You know, he's talked here a lot to us, you know, that covers him every day. He's talked a lot to us that it just doesn't jive with him. He's even talked to a lot of head coaches like Matt LaFleur, who was under him in Central Michigan, and who's the guy with the Jets, Saleh, isn't it? Robert Saleh, who was GAs under him at Central Michigan. But Joe, if like a Dallas job opened up, you know, like if Mike McCarthy, you know, like it leaves and he gets in the mix, does Brian Kelly ultimately want, like, does that ever happen? I don't know, but I think Brian Kelly is built to adapt to. I really do believe that if you know, the right opportunity, like you said, could come up, it's a possibility. Now, let me just say this. He's denied it from every outlet, like every time that he said that. And I'm not saying he will, but this is a hypothetical game that you and I are playing, right? Like we're playing a hypothetical game of what might happen or coaches could go there. He would be one. And I think that I got to be real with you. I would be I know it's a team that I cover. I'd be highly intrigued to see BK because he doesn't have to recruit. He can be X's and O's. He doesn't.
He doesn't like recruiting. We all know that.
Well, I mean, he does have the number one recruiting class in the country as the number one quarterback. I don't think that that's fair. I mean, he's recruiting better at LSU than what he ever did at Notre Dame.
I don't think they still have the number one recruiting class.
Oh, who has the number one recruiting class in 2025?
I think it's Ohio State. Yeah, it's Ohio State, it's Notre Dame, and LSU's at 9.
Okay, well, what's today's
Because I think when they lost to Corian Moore, I think it bumped them.
June 11th.
It bumped them down.
Well, how about this? How about
you were no. Don't you were talking shit when they were at number 1 when they still had the Corian Moore. So don't
Joe,
they're at 9. They're at 9.
Joe, you do realize since Brian Kelly, they're not at number 9.
247 Sports has them at 9.
Right now?
Yes. Well, all right, I'll pull up the On3 industry rankings.
Let's see. Pull up on 3.
2025 recruiting.
Please, dear Lord, because they're going to probably be at like 2.
Oh yeah, they are number 2.
Okay, so shut the fuck up. In all fairness, he's recruited better at LSU than he has at Notre Dame. He has a bigger base to recruit.
All right, that's not the conversation.
All right, I would be very intrigued to see how he does. Do I think it ever happens? No, I actually don't.
I don't think it happens either because he had the one flirtation that he did with the Eagles when he was still at Notre Dame. I just think that what happens with these coaches is that usually they have a flirtation and then the decision's made to stay and then it kind of shuts down and ends with that. Unless you're somebody like Harbaugh who bounces back and forth. Kirby's young. He's early into this process. You know, he's not as old as BK. So that there's probably going to be a good 10 years where he's going to get brought up for NFL jobs and he's probably going to turn them down.
Yeah, and look, Brian, I mean, it's not like
Brian Kelly's too old. I just don't think it's going to
I don't know if he's too old, Joe. I mean, you legitimately have a head baseball coach at 66 that just took a job in the SEC. I don't, you know.
Wait, I'm not saying that he's too old to the point where
I mean,
he's going to retire soon. I'm just saying that a lot of times these guys, when they're in their 60s, they're looking for that last
a lot
job.
less would be off his plate. It'd be easier to be a head coach of an NFL team than it would be a college head coach right now. I mean, let's just be honest. Is Lincoln Riley on your list? Because
no, I didn't put Lincoln on mine. Did you put Lincoln on yours?
Yeah, I put him at number 2. Joe, if the pressure continues to mount for Lincoln, I could clearly see him jumping ship. 100%.
I could see it too. He was right on the outside for me. I had a feeling you were going to bring him up, so I wanted to bring somebody else to the table here. He is very similar to another guy, which I'll bring up when we're done talking about Lincoln, because of I just feel like the way that we've seen the inconsistencies with his recruiting classes, where the 2024 class wasn't very good, and then this 2025 class is great, but there's speculation that Juju Lewis might not stay committed, which could really hurt what he's trying to build offensively. I mean, that's the number 1 quarterback in the class that he would miss out on. And a lot of these other guys are committed to big programs, which would make it hard for him to eventually find that replacement. But to this point that you're bringing up, yeah, he does kind of strike me as the type of a coach who gets frustrated and bounces. He literally did that at Oklahoma. And I think that the NFL, and he's young and early into this process of flirtation, as I've talked about, where I think plenty of teams are going to reach out to him. And Jerry Jones
if they haven't
seems
already,
to have an affinity for him. Right. Jerry Jones seems to like him.
Yeah, and look, he's another one. Joe, can I be real with you? I'd be highly intrigued to see him in the NFL because
I think he could succeed in the NFL.
I do too. I do too. Because he doesn't have to recruit. If he's got a good enough quarterback, what if this doesn't work well with the Bears? Then what happens? I think that he might be one of the more likely ones. Legitimately. Joe, let me ask you a question. If the Bears fall flat on their ass this year and Caleb Williams is their quarterback, you mean to tell me that they do not give Lincoln Riley a phone call?
Oh, I think that they definitely do. Okay. That's a very, very good point. That's a very unique circumstance that we have here where the Bears and Poles would then be on the hot seat if they fired holy hell, the name of the Bears head coach is completely escaping me. Why is it? I'm going to look it up in a second. I don't know why. But Poles, if they fired the head coach, would be on the hot seat. He'd be given a short leash. So if he wants things to work with Caleb Williams, go hire the guy that knows how to speak Caleb Williams offensively. I would wonder if that would work because we kind of saw too much freelancing from Caleb this past year, and Lincoln kind of let him just do whatever he wanted. But to this point, yeah, I could totally. Eberflus. Thank you, Ryan.
That would be my number one guy, to be honest, if you beg me to rank them, because I just think that there could be. I mean, Joe McCarthy might be out the door. There's been flirtation with him going back to Texas, even though his brisket looks like ass when he cooks it. I mean, there's just so many different things. Let me bring this up too. Cody McGee says, and sends a $9.99 super chat, says, my pick to jump ship would be Lane Kiffin back to the NFL. Reason why is look at Cliff Kingsbury at Arizona, became OC of the Washington Commanders. Thank you, Cody, for the super chat. I don't think Lane would. I can't see that. Could you?
I think he's been burned already. I mean,
he was also very young, man. I mean, you're talking about dude, Joe, think about this. He was my age. When he was very young. Russell, I mean, dude, he was my age. And let me just tell you, I couldn't do it.
There's a lot of speculation on how he handled that situation. I'm not going to dive into that, but
let's just call it what it is. He gave him a blank disc. He didn't, Jamarcus Russell didn't.
That's not what I was getting. And I'll text you off air, but I think he was very burned by that though. I really think that circumstance and the way that didn't work out. I think a lot of times with coaches, the shit hits the fan as aggressively as it does. They want some sort of consistency. If he moves, it's going to be for a different college job,
Yeah, like Florida.
I still don't think that's going to happen. My number 2 guy that I had, we've got a lot of SEC coaches in this. Actually, I'll give my third one in a second. In the same vein as Lincoln Riley,
here comes Ryan Day.
I think that Ryan Day fits into the conversation because of what you said, but he is, I think, for the next couple of years going to be very successful because there's been this aggressive commitment to building the program. I think that if Ryan Day, still with all of the NIL resources and help in recruiting he's currently getting, if he still falls short, it's going to be one of those circumstances, maybe not because of frustration, but maybe a polite nudging by the athletic department that like, hey, we don't want to fire you. You've done some great stuff. We don't want you to leave here in disgrace, but maybe you should take those interviews that you're getting with the NFL. And I also think he's somebody who would succeed in the NFL. He has been a coach who has known how to build a winning culture and build a roster and be around consistent winning cultures. The only thing that might get in his way is how badly the Urban Meyer experiment went. And I don't know if the NFL might take that, too much.
Yeah. To your point, 2 of his mentors, one that's now his offensive coordinator and the one that he was an OC for and Urban Meyer, both of them I don't want to say that Chip Kelly failed. Like everybody said that. Everybody listens to LaShawn McCoy and said, "Oh, everything that he's saying truth." Do you guys ever listen to LaShawn McCoy and hear anything that he says?
Dude, his show's terrible. His
Well,
show is so bad.
Well, bro, some of the stuff that he says makes me think that Chip Kelly wasn't as bad as he was, right? Like, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Because he and Deshaun Jackson are the only two guys that have talked negatively about him.
Well, and not only that, you get to a place where, like, dude, you can't say some of the outlandish shit that you say. And I'm talking about, I know that I say some crazy stuff sometimes. That dude says some outlandish shit. Here's the thing, though, for me, though, with Ryan Day, I just brought it up. Dude, when you have mentors that have failed in it, I don't know that. But here's the thing why I put Ryan Day at 3. So here's my number 3 to your number 2. Ryan Day was number 3 for me for this reason alone. Joe, they have a new AD. And what do new ADs want? Okay, new ADs want their own guy in there. And I think, like, God forbid, which I don't think is going to happen, but God forbid they lose to Michigan again. You think that Alberts isn't going to want to make a move?
Well, so this is a big part of it, too.
Fire him, but look, dude, you have a guy that legitimately just got Jimbo out. And dude, I mean, he's done some very interesting things. I mean, so
and also why we add too that we like Cliff Kingsbury got
Alberts. Why did I say Alberts?
You're thinking of Trev Alberts, who took the Texas A&M. He's at Texas A&M.
Yeah,
the previous Texas A&M AD left to go to Ohio State. Yeah, we also forget sometimes that Cliff Kingsbury was fired from his Texas Tech job.
Thank you.
Yes. He was fired from his Texas Tech job and then landed a head coaching gig. So it's not like it's impossible for him to get let go, and the NFL, and if he's got a good agent, know how to spin that to move into getting a new job. I think
he had Cliff Kingsbury had Patrick Mahomes, and he failed.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone thought that was going to work. I think the most obvious one here, though, and this is one that we said when this hiring came through, Kalen DeBoer, I think, is the most likely out of any of these guys in 3 years to make the jump to the NFL. He actually, to connect all of the dots, you were the one who even made this statement, so don't grimace, make that face at me, because you said it that he would probably leave in 4 to 5 years.
That was before he was the Alabama head coach.
No, you said it the day that he got hired. You said the day that I will go pull the clip. You said the day that he got hired that you think that he will be 9-3, 10-2 for the next 5 years, and then he'll get hired in the NFL.
Say that. I see what you're saying. Okay.
To connect all the dots, I think he reminds me a ton of Dan Hurley from the aspect of worked his way up very quickly, is a very unique-minded individual, is extremely creative in his decision-making, is just the new wave of head coach and is leading the way. And I think that for him to be that reflection, it won't be very long for him to get the interest from the NFL. I think if he wins an SEC championship game and gets a couple playoff berths, I really think he's going to get a lot of phone calls. And he has also proven that he is a jump and move up type of a guy. There's not a lot of evidence to show that he is a sit and build for a very long time type of a coach.
Yeah, but a lot of coaches before they get to very big programs are like that too. I mean, you could have said the same thing about Brian Kelly. You could have said the same thing about Urban Meyer. You could have said the same thing about, I mean, really and truthfully, you could say the same thing about Nick Saban.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick wasn't anywhere really as a head coach more than 40 years. I mean, I think it was 3, 4, and then 2 or 3 at Miami.
Toledo 1 year, and then he took the Browns DC job for 3 years. He was at Michigan State for 4. He was at LSU for 4, and the Dolphins for 2. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah. So I think that brings a point. To your point, the more that I think about this, maybe I should listen to my old self, but the way that I feel right now, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know with him. Because, Joe, if he continues to go 9-3, Is there going to be enough buzz out there for him to take an NFL job?
If they're top 5 in offensive production every single year, yes.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, maybe so. Maybe I can see it. And look, I got in arguments with Alabama fans again this week. They fully believe that man is going to replicate Saban. They say that they have convinced themselves that they're not saying that he's going to replicate what Nick Saban has done, but yet they still believe that they're SEC championship ready, like today. And I'm like, come on, dude. Come on.
I think they're close. I can't wait till we do that deep dive. We are going to scream at one another for 20 straight minutes. I'm telling you right now, I do not agree with you.
I think they're close to winning an SEC championship today.
Yeah, I think that they're going to compete for one this year. I really do. I really think that everything that they have is it's funny watching a different cook try to prepare a meal last year with all the wrong ingredients.
Name the
those ingredients that they have are going to be perfect for Kalen DeBoer.
Name the starting 5 in their secondary.
The secondary is a huge question mark, but we are acting like Saban. Understandably, some guys left. We're acting like Saban didn't leave him still a very well recruited roster.
Sure, he also. I mean, you can't say that. I mean, do you remember who their quarterback is? So I
told you I'm flipping the script on Jalen Milroe. Tommy Rees, Jalen Milroe. Hell no, I'm not getting in on that boat. And I doubted that shit out of him. Kalen DeBoer, Jalen Milroe. You bet your ass I'm rooting for him. I think he's gonna be great this year. And
I wouldn't root for him. What I'm saying is, like SEC championship ready. Who are they competing against?
Georgia, Ole Miss.
Okay, so what you're saying is right now that they would be in the mix of
like they got there last year with so many issues and question marks.
All time.
He was 71 when he did it.
Who gives a flying shit how old he was? He's the greatest head coach of all time, Joe.
We're acting like we didn't sit on the show and constantly doubt him throughout the entirety. All right, who's your last coach?
Don't you dare.
We both did. You turned the tide in the middle of the season after they beat LSU, but BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.